military was caught with its pants completely down, its trousers down. When everything began was the Jewish festival in Israel of Simchat Torah, which is a kind of party day, celebrations. And it was about 8 in the morning where we suddenly started to hear sirens. We ran to this room. This is our safe room. That's why we have a lot of stuff in here right now. It's a family. And then the sirens just kept coming and coming and coming until we had no idea what was happening and why. Israel is in shock. What happened, the sheer number of deaths, 700, the sheer number of Israelis kidnapped, reported this morning to be over 130 taken into Gaza, is so far beyond anything we've ever seen before that I think most people in the country haven't come close to processing it yet.
You're talking about that sort of shock. At what point did it actually dawn on you that this was something of the scale and gravitas that it has turned out to be?
I mean, I don't know if it's even really sunk in for me yet, but when the sirens kept coming, Jerusalem is pretty far from Gaza. There have been 1 or 2 rocket attacks in Afghan with Gaza before, but the continuing sirens all morning told me something was wrong. And that it took a long time for the news media to really piece together what was happening because there was nobody there. And the Hamas terrorists had free reign for some hours.
For you, what do you think is going to happen next in terms of Israel's response? We've been hearing that tanks and troops on the border. What do you know of what's happening in a military capacity in terms of a response?
Well, the military was caught with its pants completely down, its trousers down. It takes some time to build up capacity. A lot of Israeli men have been summoned, as reserves into the military. And things are building up. It takes a few days. It seems certain pretty much that there's going to be some kind of ground invasion into Gaza. But Israel has not been able to act inside the cities of Gaza for 30 years, really since the early 90s. And those cities are fortresses every street. And I don't, this is not going to be an easy campaign for Israel or for the Gazans, whatever the war aims may be.
The Prime Minister said, look, this is war and it could take a long time. What are you hearing about, how this all could develop?
The government is making some very big promises to people right now to fundamentally destroy Hamas's fighting capability for good or for 50 years. What would be necessary to do that would be months of fighting, and even that might not succeed. I don't think anyone really has a sense of what the plan is right now. And in fact, as the shock begins to settle down, Israelis are asking each other, including me, so what's the plan? How do you intend to do this very dramatic and grand thing that you've promised to destroy the capacity of Hamas forever? What about the hostages? We're talking about this morning, there's like potentially 130 Israelis, men, women, children, young babies, people in their 80s and 90s. How do we protect them and keep them safe from this fighting, if possible? I just to think that the scale of what is ahead right now is so big that Israelis and perhaps even the Israeli military have not come to terms with what happens next. Just I don't think anyone really knows.
Yeah. To what extent have there been retaliatory strikes already?
So Israel has been mostly focusing on airstrikes in Gaza against Hamas targets, including the houses of Hamas leaders and what they say are intelligence and military kind of capabilities and capacities there. And there are those that say, well, Israel's intelligence on Hamas clearly isn't as good as we thought it was. So when it comes to striking these targets, how do we know they're the right ones? But so far, that's all, I hate to say it, pretty standard in these kind of rounds between Israel and Gaza. And it's something of a holding pattern to see over the next couple of days what the next phase will be.
Which looks like it could be a land invasion, if we're to believe this reporting.
Yeah.
You mentioned the sort of military intelligence there. What it seems to be is this sort of catastrophic failure to understand and appreciate what could be coming.
A completely catastrophic failure of intelligence, and not just intelligence, of readiness, of planning. It took really all day. These incursions happened at 6:30, 7 a.m. on Saturday, and it took until the night before the military showed up in some of these towns. And Israel is a small country. You can drive to Gaza from Jerusalem in 2-3 hours if you really need to. And the military has planes and things. It's the commission of inquiry that tries to figure all this out in a year or two will have a lot on their plate, but it's just completely astonishing that no one had planned for this at all, even a little bit. Israel lives off the myth of its strong, super smart, very lean military that can do what it needs to do. And at the moment, that myth seems to have been stripped away.
Mm. What questions does that leave you, less as sort of a journalist, but just a resident, about the safety of the country and the protection of people living in it?
Look, I live in Jerusalem. Jerusalem is a mixed city, but really it's a divided city. Half of the city is Jewish, the other half are Palestinians. And you have to walk really 5 minutes, 10 minutes from my house to each of Palestinian neighborhoods. We've been making sure we leave our door locked, even during the day, because just as there was a surprise attack in Gaza, maybe there'll be a surprise attack here. I'm not stopping going out the house, but there is this kind of fear in the back of your mind that, it can come to you anywhere. And I don't think we're alone in that at all. There's a lot of big adjustments to be made. But even as you feel like that, you also feel a bit guilty, because the people who are really dealing with this in the south of Israel, where 700 are killed and people have lost so many family members. Maybe it's indulgence to think of yourself as being like them.